Hey there YouTube, what's up? My name is Camilla Aaron. I make videos on YouTube. I talk about all different types of stuff, usually related to LGBT topics. LGBT topics are something I have experience with, and the acronym LGBTQIA. I am the I, and that means I'm intersex. I'm also bisexual, so I'm B. I'm going to talk today about the difference between being trans and being intersex, how that they're completely different. They're not the same whatsoever. One is genetic and the other is psychiatric. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and explain. I was born with a condition called persistent Mullerian duct syndrome. I was diagnosed at a very young age. My experience with persistent Mullerian duct syndrome has honestly complicated my life. It has made a lot of things more difficult, starting from small symptoms or minor symptoms, such that leads into my gender dysphoria. But some of the things that I deal with someone, with an intersex person, is one of the things we deal with is we're mistaken for being trans. Being intersex, you have what's called an SRY gene, and the SRY gene mutation in 46 chromosome can cause a variety of about 30 different intersex conditions. There is a main 30 intersex conditions. The one which I deal with and was born as, I was born with XY chromosome. That is male. But I was born with a partial female reproductive system. That means that I was born with a uterus and fallopian tubes, very underdeveloped. And it varies on a case-to-case basis. So some people that are born with persistent Mullerian duct syndrome can live their lives as happy men, or some are raised as a female. My experience is that I don't know if it's my anatomy that makes me feel this way, or if it's what I'm going to talk about later in the video relating to gender dysphoria. I think that me having two reproductive systems, for all intents and purposes, complicates my life in a lot of ways. I don't have the time to go into every issue that it causes. What I will say is that I've always had a hang up on what gender am I? Am I a male? Am I a female? Well, my testicles never descended from my body. That means that they're up inside near the Mullerian duct. And my penis never fully developed. So when I say never fully developed, it means that it did not grow very long at all. In fact, it is about an inch or less. So one of the issues that I run into with in a situation like mine is that if I were to get a neovagina through sexual reassignment surgery, I would first have to go through and undergo a hysterectomy, a partial hysterectomy. I do believe that having more of an effeminate biology leads towards me feeling more female than male. So being intersex can be something very minor, and it can be something that really affects your life. I have never met another intersex person with my condition in real life, and on Facebook, I started the largest intersex support group in the world. Intersex conditions, they would be, I would say the opposite of mine would be what a woman born with no uterus and fallopian tubes, but with internal testes. That's called partial androgen insensitivity syndrome, PAIS, whereas I have PMDS, persistent Mullerian duct syndrome. Being intersex does not define me, but being intersex biologically means, in my circumstance with the condition I was born as, that I was born as what's considered a pseudo-hermaphrodite. Being considered this made me feel like a freak growing up. It's one of the other issues that it's caused is internal conflict and self-acceptance. I've considered having either of my reproductive systems removed, but I'm going to segue into being transgender and why I live female. Because I do feel that I experience gender dysphoria. If you watch my videos, you know that being transgender is caused by a psychiatric illness. There's a medical reasoning and a medical basis for transsexuality. It used to be known as gender identity disorder in the American Psychological Association's DSM-4. In the newer version of the American Psychological Association's DSM-5, it got a new name and it was renamed gender dysphoria. That is an incongruency with your brain and your body. So a traditional transgender woman, for instance, was born a male, but that person gender identity or mental or internal mental psychiatric sex is female. Bear with me one moment. Sorry, I did not want to disturb my audio, and I had one of my cats hop on the table. Being transgender, so sorry about that. Being transgender, basically in a nutshell, is a psychiatric issue where being intersex is a S or Y gene mutation. So it's more of a biological issue, if you'd call it an issue. I just consider it a diagnosis. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm explaining my condition, and I'm going to now speak about why I consider myself trans. My body does not make enough estrogen to sustain, to develop secondary female sex characteristics. These secondary sex characteristics are, pardon me, breast growth, fat redistribution, even your face changes on hormones to an extent. It causes your body hair to lighten or become finer and finer and finer. A lot of body hair falls out. I don't grow chest hair. I never have. I've never been a very hairy person. Gender dysphoria, I believe, is a more painful experience than being intersex because those people are truly trapped in a body that they hate. They don't identify with it. I have a very moderate stance on transgender ideology. I am neither extremely leftist nor extremely conservative. What I will say is you cannot change your sex. That's impossible, and it's a bit delusional. I hate to see what's become of the transgender community in the past 5 or less years, especially since the pandemic. I do believe that it is a social contagion, and a lot of people will grow out of their gender dysphoria, especially minors. Once again, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just explaining my experience growing up as an intersex woman of transgender experience for over a decade. I've seen a lot of transgender people in real life, and I've met several intersex people in real life. I have a really good friend who has Klinefelter syndrome, which is an intersex condition. What I will say is that I am completely sterile. I'm unable to have children. My testicles do not produce enough testosterone, and due to a lack of ovaries, I am in a position where I have to take some type of hormone. At one point in my life, I was using an androgen cream. It allowed me the ability to grow facial hair and live as a male. I lived this way for the first 19 to 20 years of my life, starting the androgel in 2002 or 3. I tried living as a male, did not work for me. I do believe that's more on a biological basis than a psychiatric basis, like a transgender person. I brand myself as a transsexual person or a transgender person because it's easier for the public to just go, oh, that's a trans person. Explaining that you're a pseudo-hermaphrodite and spending 7 minutes explaining it isn't very practical, especially on dating apps. especially in real life or at work. It's almost easier to live as a trans person, just because, how do I put this? Transgender people are a lot more accepted than they like to believe, or that the leftist community believes. Being trans is something people do for clout at this time and age. It's sad, but it happens in this current day. There's a lot of people that are transitioning for all the wrong reasons, and it's given the transgender community a huge decrease in acceptance since 2015. I hate to see the decreased acceptance, but I do believe that the transgender community did bring this upon themselves. I was going to just check transgender support groups since 2006. We fought to not have labels. Nowadays, everyone wants to label everything. Non-binary is not a real thing. If it was, I truly am born non-binary. Of course, I don't feed into that ideology. It's not real. But if it was real, I'm closer to non-binary than I am closer to a male or a female. I do have two sets of reproductive system and do believe that my experience as a woman to be completely valid. In my previous video, I talked about realizing I was transgender, and I got a lot of Bible thumpers, messaging me that I can repent and that God forgives. Nothing I've done to myself is, in my opinion, a sin. I was biologically born two genders, and my chromosomal makeup is XY, but you have to give me the benefit of the doubt, given that I do have a uterus, I do have fallopian tubes, and I do believe that that has an impact on my psyche, my mental outlook on these things. People comment some very transphobic things, and I do believe transphobia is a real thing. I hate being lumped in with transgender people, but at the same time, I've been lumped in with them so long that I've kind of formed an identity that is transgender. This is the first time I've talked on my channel, truly heart to my audience, of what I've experienced. I would say that I have gone through periods of self-hate, depression, and gender identity crisis all throughout my life. I hate to see what's become of the trans community. This is not a video hating on them. This is not a video putting them down. It's the ideology. You can't force something in people's face and expect them to accept it. Like I said, we used to not have labels for everything in the trans community. And I find that labeling myself trans is basically like spark notes of a book. Do you really want to spend the whole time reading the book if you're strapped for time? It's easier just to read the spark notes. You can read the summary, get the gist, the plot, the story, in a much shorter and abridged version. I believe calling myself trans to be just as that. It hurts me when I see people stating that this is a sin or that I'm living a life of sin. It is not. I do believe that all human beings were born into a life of sin. I do believe in God, and I believe God made me as who I am, and I'm wonderfully made, and God loves me for who I am. If you have any questions, if you're looking out for intersex support, I do recommend going on Facebook and searching intersex and transgender support network. You can search that, and if you're approved, you have to answer a few questions. If you're approved, I find that group to be a wonderful group. If you've got questions about being intersex, or if you recently discovered you are intersex via karyotyping testing, then I recommend it. If you have any questions for me personally, I promise I'll respond to them. But please understand that I'm an intersex woman, and this is very hard for me to make this video. I'm not a fan of comments that are directed towards me that are just, bigotry, and I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know how to label it, but I guess that I'm going to be marketing myself as an intersex woman moving forward. I do believe that that's probably in my best interest. I live in a right to work state, and I would not like to lose my job over transgender discrimination because, in a nutshell, I do have gender dysphoria, but I believe that I'm an intersex woman, and my videos moving forward are going to be geared towards intersex topics. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, as I said, feel free to comment down below. I will respond. I do read all of the comments, and I appreciate them. Until next time, and one last thing, if you want to see more content like mine, go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll be notified of every time I upload a new episode. Until next time, bye.